In episode 6, with Daphne gone away with the Duke, Colin feels like this will be a good time to alert everybody to his engagement to Marina. So he makes that announcement at a party, which takes everybody by surprise, including his family. Anthony walks up to Violet and says, "Do you have any idea about this?" But she knows people are watching, so she doesn't want to act appalled. But the Bridgertons aren't the only ones who are a little bit perturbed by this, because Penelope is definitely pissed off. And when Anthony gets Colin alone, he rips into him, saying, "You barely know this girl." Anthony asks him, "Did you do anything with her? I mean, is there a reason behind this?" But Colin says, "No, I'm doing this for love." Anthony blames himself, saying, "I should have taken you to brothels when you got back to school. This is what happens when you don't sow your wild oats," aka slutted up around town. He feels like Colin is just marrying the first chick who will sleep with him. And Colin feels like he's hearing way too much from a guy who's scared to marry. The next day when Colin gets up, he is greeted at breakfast by a very awkward interaction with his family. The only one who's excited for him is Hyacinth, and that's only because the engagement has made the latest pamphlet from Whistledown. Colin knows he needs to talk to his mother alone to find out her true feelings about this, and it doesn't seem like Violet is very pleased. He tells her, "I've been courting Marina all season. Maybe you didn't notice because you were so busy with Daphne." Violet says she noticed him flirting with Marina, but he flirts with a lot of girls. And since she doesn't want to rain on his parade, she just says that everything's happening so fast and she wasn't prepared to have 2 children fly the nest in 1 season. So Violet is taking the PC approach. Penelope is not. When she walks in and sees Marina, she is rude as hell to her, trying to give her the silent treatment. Even as Marina explains to Penelope how important it is for her to have Penelope on her side because she was the first really nice person she met, Penelope just feels like she's kissing her ass. She does tell Marina, "I'm never going to bring scandal on this family or your name, but you need to know I don't approve of this relationship." Marina, though, needs to head off to the modiste to get a wedding dress, and at the modiste, she runs into Lady Bridgerton and Eloise. Violet tells Marina, "Do not call me Lady Bridgerton. You must call me Violet now. Our families are to be entwined." Portia invites Violet over to dinner the next night so they can celebrate, and then she goes to have a conversation with the modiste about the bill that they have. The outstanding balance is so much that the Featheringtons aren't allowed to actually buy new dresses for their daughters. And since Lord Featherington has no money, this becomes an issue. Portia thought that the modiste would let it slide because of the fact that Marina is getting married, and not only is she getting married, she's getting married to a Bridgerton. But the seamstress isn't willing to let that slide. And as she's telling Portia, maybe you need to find another seamstress in that thick French accent, Marina calls her out on it because Marina's mother is from France. And she starts speaking to the modiste in French, telling her how she's not fooled by her little act. She doesn't believe the modiste is French. This really shouldn't be a big deal because the modiste does good work, everybody goes to her, but when you're selling French fashion and you're not actually French, it becomes an issue. And to keep Marina's mouth shut, the modiste agrees to make the dress. The next day, all of the Featheringtons are heading over to the Bridgerton household for dinner to celebrate, and Portia tells Marina that she will bring up the matter of having a quick wedding. But Penelope is done hiding behind the mask of politeness, and she's flat out telling people, "Yeah, this isn't going to work. Lady Bridgerton is smart, she's had 8 kids, she's going to know when she's being played." But the Featheringtons don't really have another option, so they go along with it. During the dinner, Portia does bring up that she thinks that they should marry sooner rather than later, but Anthony says no, Colin's way too young. I think a lengthier engagement would be more appropriate. And after dinner, as one of the Featheringtons is punishing the group with her horrible singing, Penelope gets Colin alone and tells him that Marina is still in love with somebody else, a guy named George. She's seen the love letters and she's still in love with him. But Colin is unfazed by this, mentioning how he's flirted and had crushes with just about every girl in town. And if Marina is so in love with George, then why is she marrying me? Marina, though, comes out and sees the interaction going down and tells Penelope that Portia wants to have a word with her. She then gets Colin's undivided attention and says how she can't take this anymore. Her own family doesn't want her, the Featheringtons don't want her, and it's obvious that Violet disapproves of the relationship. Colin cuts her off and says, "That's not true. I'm your family now." And Marina tells him, "That's all I want. I just wish that we could be married right this second." And that's when Colin brings up the one way that they can get married, heading over to Scotland. He knows that Anthony will be pissed off when they arrive back, but at that point it's too late. They're married. Marina tells him she loves the idea, and Colin says, "Okay, give me a day to arrange everything." So these two lovebirds are doing the 1800s version of flying off to Vegas and getting married in front of Elvis. But Penelope is not done giving up hope that she can break this relationship up. She goes through Marina's things and finds the love letters and notices that there's something up with them. Mainly that the signature from George does not match up. And when Marina walks in the room, initially she's pissed off that Penelope is holding her things, but Penelope excitedly says, no, you don't understand. George didn't write these letters. My mother did. George never said those horrible things to you. And Penelope is convinced that this will change Marina's mind, but it doesn't. Because Marina says, well, it doesn't matter anyway. He still hasn't written back to me. He's abandoned me. And Penelope is getting more and more upset about this. And she asks Marina, what are you going to do when Colin discovers that the child is not his? He's not an idiot. And Marina tells her that she'll live safe in the knowledge that her husband is a good and kind man, expecting Colin just to accept the child as his own. But Marina also realizes that Penelope is way too invested in this and tells her, you love Colin Bridgerton. That's the only reason why all of this makes sense. And Penelope tries to play it off like that's not the case, but Marina gives her a cold dose of reality that Colin will always view Penelope as a sister, whereas he will view Marina as a wife, and it will never change. And with nowhere else to turn, Penelope that night heads back to her old friend Eloise's arms. Even though they were fighting, they're still really good friends deep down, and Eloise tries to comfort Penelope as she's bawling her eyes out, knowing that Colin is making this big mistake getting tricked. But before Colin and Marina can head off to Scotland to get married, Lady Whistledown has gotten word that Marina is tricking him, and she writes about it in the latest pamphlet, which puts a kibosh on the whole thing. It makes the Featheringtons look really, really bad. Now, over with Daphne and the Duke, they arrive at the Duke's place, a place called Cliveden, a massive mansion, and they're greeted by the staff that includes sort of the house manager, a woman named Mrs. Coulson. And they quickly christen the bedroom, but one of the staffers walks in after they finish, of course, he's not rude, and tells the Duke that while he knows he's on his honeymoon, the affairs are a mess. There's also a ton of letters from farmers begging for an audience with the Duke. The Duke hasn't been there in a while, and in his absence, things are all a mess. So while the Duke is attending to, I guess, his job, Daphne is walking around the castle with Mrs. Coulson, and she's kind of being a know-it-all with things, pointing things out that she wants to change. You can tell that it's irking Mrs. Coulson, but she's polite enough not to say anything. But they are on their honeymoon, so they bang all over the place. I mean, outside, inside, table, bed, doesn't matter. And it's so adorable because as Daphne is talking to her lady's maid, she tells her that she didn't even know it was possible for the Duke to have sex because of the fact that he said he couldn't have children. And it's so laughable because the Duke's thrust game is at a 100. They do take a break from having sex, though, and attend a local festival where Daphne is instructed to pick a winner out of 3 pigs. She asks one of the guys there, what exactly does the winner get? And the guy tells her that the pig gets slaughtered. And that's all she's told. So she doesn't want the innocent pig to get slaughtered. And she tells the crowd that it's a tie. All 3 pigs win. And people are definitely looking at her pretty cross-eyed as they give her a nice polite golf clap. Daphne and the Duke, though, then start walking around the crowd where a farmer does approach the Duke about the fact that the rent for farmers has been tripled. It's something that the Duke and, of course, Daphne had no idea about. And they assure him that they will look into it. A little girl then runs up to Daphne crying, and Daphne comforts her. And when the little girl's mother shows up to find that the Duchess is comforting her daughter, she's a little embarrassed. But Daphne is extremely kind to this woman. It gives the Duke, though, a glimpse as to what Daphne would have been like as a mother. And as they're walking back to the castle, they have a conversation about it. And the Duke does admit that Daphne is a natural with children. The next day when she wakes up, she heads to the Duke's office, but the Duke is up to his eyeballs in work. He didn't realize just how much of a mess everything truly was. So he's busy for the day. And Daphne has decided to go around town handing out gift baskets. She heads out to the garden with her lady's maid to start picking flowers when Mrs. Coulson catches her and is mortified that the Duchess is picking her own flowers, assuring her that if she just tells her what she needs, she'll get it for her. But Daphne looks at it like it's not that big of a deal. I'm just picking flowers. We don't need to get other people involved. I'm not that much of a diva. And at this point, it's become obvious to even Daphne that Mrs. Coulson doesn't really like her. She then takes those gift baskets, though, and with her lady's maid, she heads to the town, but nobody is accepting her gifts. She can't figure out why because she was told that this was tradition. The little girl from the festival runs up to Daphne once again with her mother in tow. Her mother is very pregnant. And Daphne gives the little girl a hug, but then offers her mother a gift basket. And the woman says that she would accept it, but she doesn't have the arms to take it home with her, so Daphne says, oh, don't worry, we'll walk with you. Daphne then asks the woman, why is it that people are being pretty rude to her? She wants to know if she did something wrong. And the woman lets her know that at the festival, it's tradition for the farmer with the winning pig to get the contract to feed the entire village for the year. When Daphne decided that all three were a tie, nobody was awarded the contract, thus nobody was awarded the money, and it was looked at as a slight. Of course, Daphne had no idea about this, and the woman tells her, well, how could you? Nobody told you. So Daphne is determined to make this right. She also wants to mend the fence with Mrs. Coulson. She feels like they got off to a rocky relationship, and with the Duke so preoccupied with his work, when she gets back to the castle, she asks to speak with her. After telling Mrs. Coulson how much she appreciates the help, they get into a conversation about the Duke and his childhood, and how the Duke doesn't really seem at ease in Cliveden. And Mrs. Coulson is very aware of this, mentioning how his childhood wasn't the easiest upbringing. And it all had to do with the Duke's father. We know the backstory of that, but Mrs. Coulson mentions how she hated the fact that the Duke's mother was always blamed for this. She tells Daphne that she told the Duchess that a womb cannot quicken without a strong, healthy seed. Unfortunately for Daphne, she doesn't really know what the hell she's talking about. It does, however, give Daphne insight into her husband. Although later that night, when she goes to visit her husband and they have sex, and the Duke pulls out, she starts kind of putting the pieces together. But she confirms this when she heads down and talks to her lady's maid and point blank asks her how her baby's made, because she knows nothing. So the woman explains it to her. And that's when Daphne realizes that it's not that the Duke can't have children, he won't have children, and that is why he's pulling out. And this revelation really upsets Daphne. It's just sitting with her. So the next time they have sex, normally the Duke is on top. That position is referred to as missionary. But in a bold move, very early on in the relationship, Daphne spices it up. She flips the Duke over, with Daphne now on top, and that position is called cowgirl. This puts the Duke in a tough spot, because now if he wants to pull out, he literally has to chuck his wife off of him. And he doesn't do that. Daphne stands her ground. And for the first time in his life, the Duke does not pull out. I guess the first time that we know of. And Daphne makes it painfully obvious that this was all an orchestrated plan by her, by simply getting up and starting to walk out. And the Duke tries to talk to her about what just happened. And that's when she confronts the Duke about the fact that it's not that he can't have kids, he's choosing not to. And in Daphne's mind, that is completely different from what she was told. She feels like the Duke lied to her. Can't means you're unable to. Won't, well, that's a different story. And she was okay with the fact that the Duke couldn't have her kids. But now knowing that the Duke won't have her kids is very unsettling to her. The Duke, however, feels like he didn't lie to her, telling her that he was prepared to die on a dueling field than take her dream away from her. And it was her who insisted on this marriage. Daphne at one point used the word betrayal. The Duke at one point used the word love. And that sets Daphne off, who says, you don't trick the one you love. You don't lie to the one you love. So there's trouble in paradise. Thanks for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to this channel. Like the video if you liked it. Hit thumbs down if you don't. Be nice in the comments section. Nasty comments hurt my feelings. I work hard on these. If I make a mistake, it happens. If you don't see the next video up in the end screen, it'll be up soon. Sharing is caring. Put it on your MySpace page or your away message. And check out my podcast, Scene Invaders, wherever you listen to podcasts.